You're watching BCTV, Branford's community access station.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Around the Town of Branford with Henry and Frank. We're standing in front of the historic, built in 1852, Trinity Episcopal Church on the Branford Green. It's a English Gothic-style church, and it's really beautiful. It's all been totally fixed up, especially downstairs, and there's a tour that you're going to take today with us and with the Reverend Sharon Grayson. It's great to see you, as always, Reverend Grayson.
It's wonderful to be with you again, Frank, on a little cold, misty day, but we'll get inside soon.
That's good to hear. Okay, so right now, what you're looking at is the church steeple. And then coming down over the red doors, there's a new window that we're going to be talking about inside. You're going to see that from inside, looking out at the green, right? That's the Reverend Hannah window. And all this information, it'll all be told to you by the Reverend Sharon Grayson. The outside has been also fixed up. The church just finished a huge project, and I believe that the project concentrated on the area downstairs. Is that correct?
Yes, we definitely did a lot downstairs, but we actually did kind of a lot everywhere. So let me explain a little bit about this beautiful building. Originally, it was not this beautiful gleaming white. There was a gray stucco on it at one point, and there were kind of some dragon fin looking things on the roof edges. We have old photos, and to see how often it has changed. But this wonderful white facade was recently painted as a part of our renovation, as well as landscaping work, and you can see a new ramp access up to the door between the church and the parish hall. We added pavers, which create a plaza effect on both sides of the door.
It's beautiful.
I think so too. I was out here weeding yesterday, so I'm glad we're doing this now rather than before with all the grass coming up through it. So we used to have a handicap ramp over to the leftmost red door, which was unsightly and getting dangerous, and so it's gone. And that's a wonderful thing. I love that corner of the church now. So we've been able to restore it much more to its original intent. And I'm not just an impartial observer here, because I think that it is one of the most iconic buildings in town. It's probably one of the most photographed. I usually come out here, somebody's painting or shooting a picture of it. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that we live up to that kind of anchor position that we have here. Yeah. So we're delighted we were able to do this. Before we go in to talk about the Hannah window, it's not just the Hannah window, it's the Hannah windows. Okay. Because it's the two-part over the door, the rose window above it, and then there are two side windows that are all a part of the same artistic design.
I see. Oh,
and
great.
So it's we may not see all of it here because, number one, we're not going up in the steeple to see the rose window. I can promise you that. But the other two are in staircases and closets, but they make a beautiful collaborative stained glass moment.
Wow,
so
wonderful.
It is wonderful.
Yeah. That's great. No, that really sounds great. It's going to be great to go inside. Okay, so thank you very much. This is Frank, and I'm with Henry and Frank. It's Around the Town of Branford. And stay with us. We're just about to go inside to the beautiful Trinity Episcopal Church. Stay with us. Okay, we're now inside the beautiful historic Trinity Episcopal Church on the Branford Green, built in 1852. I'm with the Reverend Sharon Grayson, and we're standing in front of the Reverend Archibald Hannah window, of which there's actually four, but this is the main one overlooking the Branford Green. It's just a magnificent window, Reverend Grayson.
This this window has quite a story, which first of all has to go back to when Trinity was first built. All of the windows were just diamond patterned plain glass windows, and they became placeholders for what is now an extraordinary collection of stained glass. This being the most recent, we probably did this about 6 years ago, I think. When I came to Trinity back in 2010, the window that was here was in horrible shape. There was plastic stapled all over the window, so there would be wind rustling noises with the plastic, and it was a little spooky sometimes. But we had a very committed member of our vestry who is actually a relative of Wallace Foote, Carol Schaller, who took on as the project to have this window designed and made. And Carol worked very hard. She got a grant from the Foote Trust.
Great.
And we found an amazing artist. Her name is Deborah Coombs. She's an immigrant. She's from Great Britain. Her studio is now up in Vermont. And Deborah, we got to work with Deborah on helping to design this window. She is most known for her glass painting, the painting on the glass. Not only did she use incredible different kinds of glass, you see lots of different opacities and different colors. So this is her artistry on display.
Magnificent.
And what we have here is, as you mentioned, Archie Hanna did a program with you and wrote a book on the Thimble Islands. Well, the Thimble Islands are in this window.
Oh,
the islands up, that is the Long Island Sound.
Yep.
This is the Branford River.
Yep.
And with the Holy Family, when this is a little bit unusual because it's one of the few depictions, maybe the only depiction of the Holy Family in which Joseph is holding the baby. And so that makes it a little bit unique, kind of modern dad sort of nod. And I will always remember Deborah saying that it was the first time with Mary smiling, looking at the baby. She said, it's the first time I've ever painted teeth. So that was kind of fun. But she included our lovely beach roses. We have an anchor that's a nod to the seafaring history of this church. It was designed and it was built by shipbuilders, and it looks like an upside down ship. So all of that is in there. And the worshipers over here are a collection of this is her granddaughter was the inspiration for this little girl. She tells me that I inspired the woman up standing there with the hands out, and the others are people that she's known, photographs that she had, that all made their way in here. But the amazing thing about this window is when you can get up close enough to it, you can see every blade of grass. It's just amazing. Incredible.
It's amazing. All the brush strokes.
Mm-hmm. And what you have to be up here in the alcove over the door to see it. But my absolute favorite is the expression on the lamb, who looks like in the midst of all this hubbub, he's just saying, whatever. So he's my favorite. But the birds, instead of the birds that you would usually see in a religious window that would be doves, these are seagulls, because there are birds here. So we have the Branford River with the seagulls going out to the Sound with the Thimble Islands, and a sunrise, which is a lovely religious image as well. With the sunrise, the rising of the S-U-N and the rising of the S-O-N. So we have those all wrapped up in this. And then above us is a rose window, which continues the motifs that Deborah worked into the Trinity design there, the 3 interlocking rings. Yep. And the cross that looks like a star. So those colors and things are continued in the rose window, and the cloud designs are continued in the side windows. So, but one of the things that we asked Deborah, that part of her mandate was to create a window that would let a lot of light in, because this place needs it, but that would also be coherent with all the other windows, particularly the one at the far end over the altar. the Tribble window. So this had to be something that, while looking modern, would not look out of place. And we think she did an amazing job, but I remember Deborah standing in the balcony right there looking at all of the windows, and I came upstairs and she turned to me and she said, "This is a stained glass museum." And she felt a little intimidated trying to be the one to add to that, but it turned out wonderfully. She's a delightful human being and an amazing artist, and it was a whole lot of fun to work on this. We made a road trip up to her studio and saw pieces as they were being leaded together. It was a great experience. And then we got to light it. We had the alcove is lit at night so that you can see this window from the outside, and we did that the very first time on the night of the tree lighting. And Deborah was standing in the midst of the crowd when the lights went on, and she heard this collective, and it was the coolest moment ever to have her experience, the town experience her window. It was too much fun. So that's all I can say about that.
That's a great story. It's wonderful to hear all that, and it's an unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It's so great to be in this beautiful church. I mean, it's just fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. Great story.
One more thing I might say, this window is dedicated to the Reverend Archie Hanna, who was a deacon at the church. He was not a priest or the rector. He was an ordained deacon, worked as a librarian at Yale, and was but dedicated to his work in the church. And he was here for probably, decades and decades. Yes. And Archie died within a few months before I came here, so I never got the chance to meet him. Mm-hmm. But there was such a desire to acknowledge his contribution to the life of this congregation that this was how that all came about. So in memory of Archie, his family has been here to see it, and so that was probably the nicest way we could think of, other than to attend to the library that he organized for us.
Yes, yeah. Well, I just want to say that it's true. I mean, he was a great guy, and the whole family was, just outstanding. And so anyway, thank you very much for this up close and intimate look at this great stained glass window by Deborah Coombs. And right now, the plan is to go downstairs and see, the terrific work that's transformed, the whole downstairs. So that's our next stop. And also, I think the idea is to look at the Tribble.
Turn the camera around, and so you can get a sense of the other windows with which this one is in conversation. So we're going to probably wait a sec while Henry turns the camera around.
Yeah, good. Okay, so stay with us, and we're just about to look out the other way towards the altar, and you'll see the beautiful Tribble window.
And now we're looking the other way from the balcony of Trinity Church, straight at the altar, and the beautiful Tribble window over the altar. It is surrounded by some amazing gold leaf painting, which was done by, I think, maybe a Nardella in town. He was an Italian craftsman who came and did the beautiful decorative painting around the window.
It's true. It's
wonderful. That was also repaired recently because gold leaf doesn't last forever. It will flake off. So we found some, thanks to Yale, we found an expert to come and fix that for us.
Cool.
But the Tribble window has tons of imagery in it. The one on the top with God the King, with the Alpha and the Omega, and the rainbow, which is always a symbol of a kept promise on God's part that will never be washed away by flood again. So, but all kinds of other images from Jesus' life, with Jesus in the center. Mm-hmm. And what's wonderful for me, because I get to be up close to it every Sunday, is when we worship in the morning, the sun is coming through that window, which makes it beautiful for the worshipers. Yeah. But what they don't know is that it is splashing color all over the altar and all over them when they come up for communion.
Oh,
and so
great.
I get to see people with beautiful washes of color on them as they're coming up to receive the gifts of God for the people of God.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I mean, it's an awfully gray, overcast outside today, and so that's why you can't really see all the colors. But I mean, at the time that it's bright outside, boy, those colors are just outstanding. They're very, very strong colors.
The sun moves through here in the morning, and Sundays when I come in, it's lighting up the windows over here on the left, which is a collection that goes everywhere from a rather contemporary one back here that we refer to as the Baby Whisperer, because it has such you're going to pan right by me here. This is the top of it, and babies love it because the red and the blue and the green are so bright in it. And I tell all my young parents, if your baby starts to get fussy, walk them back to the Baby Whisperer window, and everything is fine. It always works. And they're like, you really meant that? And I said, yes, I did. We count on that window to do its work.
Amazing.
And then the next two windows are from the Lamb Studio, which I would not be surprised if someone who created the Lamb Studio was a student of Tiffany. And the very first window up there, which is an angel on the left, is the oldest Tiffany window that we have here. That window actually shows up a couple of places in Connecticut. Tiffany did a lot of work here because he lived in New York. He also had a home here. And so lots of churches were calling on the Tiffany the Tiffany Studio for glorious stained glass. It is part of a triptych in another church. And so it's not unique to us, but the two that are opposite on the right-hand side, the first two windows, are, according to our history book, they were given in memory of a parishioner, a doctor and his mother. And Louis Comfort Tiffany was here for the dedication.
Wow.
And according to our history book, he said that those windows represent the finest work to ever come out of his studio.
Wow.
And if you want a display of light, then you need to be in the church late in the afternoon when the sun is pouring through there, and it looks like the kind of jewelry you would see now at the Tiffany store. They're tiny little pieces of glass. And it was those. All three of our Tiffanys have recently been restored. They were all taken up to Massachusetts and taken apart piece by piece, everything photographed and cataloged and then completely re-leaded. And
Amazing.
It was quite an undertaking. And
that's incredible.
when their craftspeople came to reinstall them, they just were, we've never worked on anything like this before. So those are real treasures. And
they got them all back together.
They did, and everything's in the right place.
Isn't that crazy? That's wonderful. Oh my
So,
gosh.
but they truly are amazing. That's one of my favorite things, is to come in here in the afternoon and see what happens to those windows when you get a bright sunshine coming through them. They will show you things every time, something different.
So I just wanted to say, I can see why the artist of the Hannah window, Deborah Combs, she said, that this church, it's a stained glass museum.
Yep, and I could understand coming into a place like this with historic windows like this and feeling just a little bit intimidated. But she was up to the job. So
absolutely, no, she it came off fantastic. Yeah. Oh, that's such a great story from. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a very beautiful and very historic church. How about How about up here at the very top?
Yeah. If you think about the church as a place of refuge, it's kind of like the Ark, where it's a place of salvation.
Yep, absolutely.
And so the bottom of a ship Actually, I would say the top of the church looks like the bottom of a ship.
I see.
I don't like to think of what it would mean for the church, the ship to be upside down. That sounds a little Poseidon adventure for me. But this all is made with shipbuilding materials, made by the shipbuilders who were a part of that that industry here in Connecticut. But it is. It's extraordinary.
Yes.
And there are many, many different kinds of wood here because the church has changed over the years. The pulpit was not where it is now. The choir loft was probably not there. And so it's a place that's always changing and hopefully always for the better. But this incredible, I believe that this is mahogany.
Wow.
So it
Amazing.
It every now and then takes a thorough dusting, which is not easy. And so we wait until the cobwebs have made themselves annoyingly present and visible before we try to get onto these things. But it just makes for a lovely space. And to me, this place has a very special feel to it.
Yeah.
If I can do one little digression, the Celtic spirituality has a concept known as a thin place, in which the veil between the worlds, the seen and the unseen world, is very thin. And in a thin place, the unseen world, the divine world, the world of spirit, comes through in whether like pinpricks of light or just being felt. And I'm convinced that this church is a thin place because I hear it when people walk in for the first time and they go, oh, it feels different in here. So somehow our architect and the builders created a thin place, a place in which the divine feels very close. And
True.
we are very lucky.
Yep.
One other thing, Henry, if I could make you pan to this window over here, that little white building on the top.
Oh, yeah.
That little white building on the top of that window is the original Trinity Church.
No kidding.
It was a little closer to where Town Hall is now. It was built in 1784.
Oh.
And the capital campaign then raised a couple $1,000s. It doesn't sound like much to us, but at the time in the economy, that was a big deal.
Yes.
And it was tiny, probably had a little wood stove in it. And it was paid for, the builders were paid in 1 part cash, 1 part cattle, 1 part rum. And so that's another great story. But the congregation grew and outgrew it. And so from 1784 to 1852, when this building was built,
Yep.
I would imagine that they were kind of packing the place, which is nice to think about. But it's always nice to have that little reminder of what we were, and then the rather grand decision to do this New England type of architecture. This was rare in
English.
town.
It's English.
But it was very ornate, and this was a place of congregationalism, clear glass windows.
That's right.
Rather plain
The
architecture.
meeting house. Right. Yep. Right.
Right.
Yep.
And we did something different.
Yes.
And I'm
Quite different.
personally glad we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. The whole thing, and then to hear your explanation of everything, it's just unbelievable. It's just terrific. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you so much for taking us up here, and this whole perspective that we have of the church and the windows, and it's just amazing. Okay, and
now we're going to show you something very new right below our feet here, which is a part of our renovation, and I'll tell you what it is when we get down there.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so thank you very much. Stay with us. The program, it's Around the Town of Branford with Henry and Frank, and we're speaking to the Reverend Sharon Grayson. Stay with us. Okay, we just moved the camera downstairs. We're on the first floor here, right at the main entrance. We're on the Branford Green in the beautiful historic Trinity Episcopal Church. And these doors behind me, they recently have been fully fixed up in honor of Charles F. Shelton III. And I'm here with the Reverend Sharon Grayson. This is the church entry, and she's about to show us something else.
Okay, I think we're going to let Henry move the camera so I can tell you about a part of our renovation, which was actually the first part that was completed. So Henry's going to follow me over here. So what you are looking at now are the two alcoves in the narthex, which is the Episcopal word for the entryway, and it has some very old stained glass. This is the oldest one that we have. These windows at both ends of this came from England, and so I'm told they're nothing special, but they're ours. So they do they do create a very nice frame. But what you're looking at here is a very interesting cemetery. This is called a columbarium, and the word comes from the Greek word for dove, Saint Columba. And because in the Holy Land there are some wonderful caves that have niches in them that sort of naturally formed where doves nest. And so what each one of these squares behind this beautiful stone is a place for someone's ashes. So we have 92 niches on both sides of the narthex here. And we get to keep our saints with us. So we are under the watchful gaze of some of the wonderful people who have been members of this church, who are family members of the church. And the cremains, the ashes when someone is cremated, in their own urn are installed in the wall here. And these people will get to live on the green forever. So this is, I think it has made a beautiful addition, and it has turned the entryway to the church into something functional.
Yes.
But also very holy feeling.
Very.
So we have these small little pews here, which are actually one of our main pews that was cut in half because we had to take some out to make room for a piano.
The piano, yeah.
And so we ended up with an extra pew. So we now have a nice little place for someone to sit and visit and pray. And so so we're also inside the other red doors, which have been now made non-functional. They are architectural elements on the outside of the church, no longer opened. But it creates a lovely feeling, holy space, and an alternative to cemetery or scattering ashes. We have many people who say, this has been my church all my life, and I like the idea of knowing that I will stay here. So it's been a wonderful addition. It was the first part that we completed. It was a part of our capital campaign, and Tony Terry, our architect, worked hard to make this old building, which is rarely plumb, to make everything with all these straight lines work. So it was, I know, and he kept just going, this isn't straight. This isn't, I said, no, nothing's straight in here. So it was, but these things are hard as heck to get off of here. And so, that's all. I always just have to start early to get one of those off and get the niche opened up. But many English churches have columbariums.
I've seen those, yeah.
Sometimes they're in a wall outside.
Yeah.
Often they are in the entry of the church because you enter the church in your baptism and you go out at your funeral. And so staying by the door is a part of life in the church, coming in and going.
That's true.
So.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you again for this part of the tour. And, right now, I'm really looking forward to going downstairs. Right now, that's the portion of the church called, what's it called?
The Undercroft. The Undercroft. Yeah. And we were able to put in an elevator, which was a project long anticipated when I came here. People kept talking about we need to put in an elevator, but this old building resisted putting an elevator in. In fact, it just kind of said, no, you can't make me, and I'm not going to make this easy for you, until technology changed. And so our elevator is something called a LULA, which means limited use, limited access, which means it's small and it goes one floor. But it makes everything accessible now. So
that's great.
Yeah,
Isn't that wonderful?
It's become the big expensive dumbwaiter now. We had a dumbwaiter, we had to take that out. And so now the elevator takes things up and down. So
That's wonderful. It really, the whole thing, it's fantastic. All right, so stay with us. Our program continues. We're just about to go down to the Undercroft and see what's been done down there. Stay with us. Okay, we're down in the Undercroft right now of the Trinity Episcopal Church on the Branford Green. I'm with the Reverend Sharon Grayson. We just took the ride in that LULA elevator, which stands for
limited use, limited access.
It's just fantastic. There's plenty of room in there. If you are confined to a wheelchair, there's plenty of space for you to come down here into the Undercroft underneath the Trinity Church. This project, I think, took the church over 2 years to organize, and then the construction took, and I just want to compliment the Reverend Sharon Grayson. This was all done under her leadership, and she did obviously this whole space under here has been transformed. Now it's just fantastic.
A little bit about, and to back up a little bit, Undercroft, much as if the Episcopalians like to call the entry of the church a narthex, we like to call our basement something fancier, so this is the Undercroft. So when the church was first built, this was just crawl space. It was to keep the church building from sitting on damp ground with granite that leaches all kinds of stuff through it. Yep. So there was a crawl space. Back in the 50s, it was decided that Trinity needed more space. The community needed Trinity to have more space. So members of the church came to the church, rolled up their sleeves with their shovels and picks and who knows what else, and dug out a basement. One of those people was Wallace Foote, who was a member of the church. He might have been the senior warden, kind of the elected lay leader here. And he was at his bank down Monowee Street, and at the end of the day, he would come and roll up his sleeves and climb down in here and shovel dirt out through what's now the windows. And as a result, this room had a great held a great place in Mr. Foote's heart, and so with his estate that created the Foote Family Charitable Trust, Trinity is one of the beneficiaries. The first thing they wanted to do was to buy land to create a park, which they did. We have Foote Park now, which the bank managed for many, many years. And then a few years ago, maybe about 5-6 years ago, gave the park to the town so that the town now manages, and Parks and Recreation Department take care of everything there. And so the park still receives funding, and Trinity Church and Zion Episcopal Church in North Branford are the other two beneficiaries. And so when we were looking at this rather huge project to turn what was a 1950s church basement, which had gotten to the point that disgusting is the word that comes to mind most, and is most often used to the way this space was, with a nasty old kitchen. To look at what that took, we began, oh my gosh, I would say probably 5 years ago, looking at, first of all, we hired Tony Terry to do an architectural feasibility study, what was possible to do with this space. And Tony came up with his first design, and which we were then able to hire a consultant to do a financial feasibility study. I learned a lot along the way, trust me. And so our consultant took care of surveying the congregation, and from all of her expertise running capital campaigns all over in churches all over Connecticut, she determined what it was reasonable to think that the congregation could raise. We were able to take that, and with the generosity of some rather amazing people who contributed in significant ways, we were able to go to the Foote Family Charitable Trust and ask them for an extraordinary gift, which they gave us. They contributed $500,000 to this to this, and so we've been able to do many things here thanks to the generosity of the Foote Family Charitable Trust and our good friends at Bank of America who manage it for them. They're the ones we talk to about this. So we not only call this the Undercroft, every now and then we call it the Underfoot. Just saying. But what we have now is this bright, clean space that has a dehumidification system running all the time. There is a system of drainages and I believe sump pumps somewhere that keep because we sit in kind of a wet area, you know, that Lake Branford that we get every time it rains out behind Town Hall. That affects us here as well.
Sure.
And now we can have the biggest storm ever, which of course we keep having, and we get no water in here. So it's wonderful. But we have created closet space, which all of our groups who use this said that was one of their priorities. Then we need storage space, and so we have this this sort of tug of war all the time. You know, they need space. We're not a space renting. You know, so anyway, it's a challenge. But we tried to create as much space as possible. The benches along the side go over the water mitigation system, so we made use of that. The windows that you can see are the original stonework. So those windows might have been in the crawl space, I think. But keeping the stonework on them, what Tony Terry was able to do was to bring as much light into this space as possible.
I see.
And so we have all kinds of automatic lighting now. You walk into the room, the lights come on. If you don't move, they'll go off. And so this is used by 12-step programs who have their meetings here at Trinity. We have scouting programs who are here. We actually used it last night for a community conversation on racism in Branford.
Really?
And so it has been an amazing transformation to go from grungy and dark and kind of scary, humid, and moldy and all kinds of other horrible words, now into this bright and very welcoming space. You know, we looked for a neutral palette, but one that wouldn't be cold. So Tony Terry and I looked at every warm gray you can possibly imagine to pick this out. This was our second choice. The first one didn't quite work out. So then we had to do that. But I think we're going to go into the kitchen now. So we're going to go down the hallway here, which right across from the elevator, which has red doors just like the front of the church, and into the kitchen.
Great. Okay, great. So stay with us as we continue our tour of the transformed Undercroft here at Trinity Episcopal Church. Stay with us. Okay, we are still in the Undercroft. We are now in the new restored Trinity Episcopal Church kitchen. And it's a true commercial kitchen. It's absolutely astounding to see all this equipment down here. Would you give us a tour, Reverend Grayson, please?
Here's the kitchen. This was a huge part of trying to figure out how to do this. It took our architect and a kitchen consultant and then the health department and everybody making sure that this would be a truly functioning commercial kitchen. And so what we have, all the surfaces are stainless steel. They're the easiest to clean. They, you know, get a little scratchy every now and then. We're still figuring that out. But what the pride and joy here is this absolutely amazing it's an 8-burner range, and with a double oven. Is it 8 or 10? And it has the big challenge was how to have a vent for this thing. So I had to give up some square footage in my vesting room, which is kind of like my dressing room, because this goes straight up and vents out by the chimney there. So I have a new structure in my vesting room so that we can vent the kitchen. And it is such a powerful vent that you want to make sure that you hold on to your hat when we turn it on. You don't want to be standing too close to it or you could get sucked up into the blower. So it is a wonder. dishwasher, and our kitchen folks are making good friends with it. One of the things about a commercial kitchen is you have to have dedicated sinks for certain things. There is a little sink over there that is expressly for hand washing. No, next one. That's the hand washing sink. It has to have its own soap dispenser and its own towels. We have a dishwasher at the very end behind Frank there, which is a commercial dishwasher. You fill up the trays, put them in there, put the arm down and start it. And in 2 minutes, your dishes are completely done. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And that has its own set of 3 sinks for the rinsing, the washing, and a final rinse. And so it's all very proper. And then we have a bonus set of sinks here, which don't have a particular use, but they're the kind that'll be used all the time for people who are cooking. With big commercial refrigerator and freezer next to it, so that we are, when the Historical Society comes to do their strawberry shortcake, which they've always done in our Undercroft, now they will have a beautiful, beautiful, clean place to store their strawberries before they come here and hull them and cut them up and get ready for the best strawberry shortcake in the world.
That's true.
So this has been, and what's really nice is to have this pass-through window. So every month when we do our first Sunday breakfast, which hopefully we'll be able to get back to real soon, this is the serving window for that. And so it has been quite a transformation. We're still getting stuff situated. All the dishes had to be, of course, washed, and because they were stored away in a Sunday school classroom, and figuring out just where everything's going to go. We're still trying to locate certain things, but this is. I'm not sure what is the crowning jewel of the renovation. It's quite possible it could be the exterior of the church because it looks so beautiful. But each one of these spaces, from the Hannah window to the columbarium to the elevator to this Undercroft, which our goal is for this to be used by the community. This is space that actually the community of Branford uses it more than we do. Mm-hmm. It is used by so many different groups, and we look forward to making it available as much as possible. These buildings are not just to be pretty on the green. They are to be in service to the community. So that's what we really hope, and I can't imagine why really soon, Jane, our administrator, we talk about her as air traffic control. She's the one who keeps track of who's using what space when. That's getting really busy now. So our goal to have a space that is functional as well as aesthetically pleasing and safe and clean, with air scrubbers and dehumidifiers, everything that we wanted, we got. And I love it when that happens. I count on it. When I want something, I want to have it happen. Yes. And it did. It was just amazing. Through the generosity of Trinity's community, the congregation, friends of Trinity Church, the Foot Family Charitable Trust that was so generous to us for this. They recognized the importance of Trinity Church in the community, the importance of these buildings and what they can do for the community. So to them, it was a wise investment and exactly what Wallace Foote would have wanted them to do. After all, he did dig this space out. So
that's true.
I think he's smiling on us. So we're
got
very.
A hand in it.
He definitely does. We are blessed, and
yes.
And our job now is to share our blessings.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you very much, Reverend Sharon Grayson. It was great to be here with you. Thank you for the tour. I mean, it's an astounding project, and as you said, you got everything you wanted. Thanks to all the people involved, all the generosity. It was just wonderful. So anyway, thanks again for being with us. And I just wanted to congratulate you because you recently passed your 10th year here.
10th anniversary last August, so about 10 and a half years now.
Amazing.
And we've done a lot of things here in 10 years.
Yes,
and
that's
so
for sure.
at the moment we're catching our breath.
Good. You have to take the summer off now.
Well, you never know what's going to happen around here. So,
Right. That's true. Well, anyway, it was thank you again. It was just great to be here.
Well,
with
I'm glad you wanted to know about this, so thank you.
You're welcome. So that's it for today, and thanks for being with us. And until next time, I'm Frank Tuhill, and anyway, there'll be more programs coming up on this channel, BCTV. And until next time, goodbye.